everyone. Welcome to Life Unpotted. We have a very exciting episode for you today. Before we get into that, I want to bring you a few community announcements that we're really excited about. So first being, we are hosting a second episode each week for all of you to write into us. What are you thinking about? What are you questioning? What's going on in your life? Let us know. Email us at info@livelifeunpotted.com, and we are going to have a full episode going into depth of what your question is, what you're going through, whatever it is. And that new episode is going to be on Thursdays each week. So you can expect to have 2 episodes from us each week. With the help of you all, we definitely need your help. If you have listened to Life Unpotted for a long time, or if you're a new listener, please reach out to us. No question, no life transition, no anything is too small. We would love to have your question. Matter of fact, we've already started to get a few questions from our listeners. So the exciting news is we're going to be able to start this up this Thursday. So this Thursday, look out for a second episode from us and let us know what you think. We want to hear your opinions because let's be honest, this is for you. We want to get involved with all of you. So we're very excited to release this. It all happened kind of quick. And other thing is, just with this timeliness of us connecting with you all, we had another listener, I'll leave her anonymous. We had her reach out, let us know she's a longtime listener, that she really enjoys the podcast. And I just want to share that with all of you because we love hearing from you because we're sharing all this stuff with you, but we don't actually ever know who you are. So it's really cool to connect with you guys. We really enjoy it. So if you ever just want to message us, feel free to do so at our email. So we just love hearing from you all, and we're really excited for this new series that will be coming to you every Thursday.
All right. Yeah, I'm excited as well. I think it's so funny having a podcast where we have all these listeners, and it's like, I'm like, who is listening to my voice right now as they walk on the street or do whatever they're doing? But I think this new series on Thursday is going to be a great way to integrate into the community, have people reach out to us. And yeah, I'm super excited for that.
So let's get into this week's episode. We'll be honest, a lot of crazy things have been happening to us. If you've been following along in our last previous episodes, you know that we have been going through a major period of uncertainty. And if I've learned anything, is that when you are at your utmost uncertainty, you're trying to project that uncertainty on you're homesick, or you don't like your job, or you're just anxious, whatever it may be. The fact of the matter is, it's really helpful to be aware that all it is just uncertainty. You don't have to project it into your reality. It's just a feeling that you have to sit with. And it's such a great teacher because what I've learned is that it helps bring you to the other side. And the other side is insight, it's clarity, it's bliss, it's happiness, it's flow. And that's where we've arrived today. So we're just going to go a little bit more into detail on what that's been like because, you know, if you do the work, you got to enjoy the rewards. So we want to share that.
Flow is definitely what these past few days have been like. Yesterday was absolutely insane. I've truly never in my life experienced anything like that. And I'm going to go into it briefly because I don't want to go into too much detail just because things are kind of in the works. And, you know, we'll of course let you guys know exactly what's going on as we know it. But long story short, we ended up meeting 2 different people yesterday, both of which we met at a coffee shop separately. They were sitting at the table we were working at. We got into really great and long conversations with them. And this is now transpiring as opportunities for Daisy and I to speak for certain organizations in Austin, to get more involved in these communities, to bring us up on panels. And this was definitely a major synchronicity, both of the meetings of the people that we met. And it just really made clear to me that when you are following your heart and you're following your dreams and you don't give up and you keep going, there are going to be things that happen to you along the journey to keep guiding you in the direction that you should be going. And I never would have thought that yesterday, going to that coffee shop, I would have met these people. Never. And this is the exact thing that we always talk about on this podcast, is that when you're jumping into the unknown in life, you have no idea what is going to come out of it. You have no idea the people you're going to meet. And that's why, like, our logical brain is never going to be able to give us those answers. So if we backtrack to even the reason why we ended up going to the coffee shop was because I was supposed to talk to one of my friends yesterday, and that call got canceled. And then we're like, oh, let's go to a coffee shop. So we ended up going to this hotel lobby where we met the 2 different people. And all of a sudden, I feel like our life has drastically shifted. I feel like everything is pivoting perfectly in a direction it's supposed to go. And I don't know. I think it's really making me think a lot about like how There was a time when I never even could imagine any of this happening. And now it is.
I would absolutely agree. And I think what happens is when you go through stages of extreme acceptance of where you're at instead of resisting where you're at, and you allow yourself to sit in that environment, that internal environment, if it's tumultuous, whatever it may be, what I've learned is that will always pass and it will always bring you something greater, because when you let go, and when I say let go, I mean when you stop trying to control how you feel, when you stop trying to control the external things in your life, when you stop just trying to control anything, when you stop having any expectations of anything, it will eventually come out of your hands, because we don't have the control that we think that we have. It's an illusion, right? And what I've learned is through this process, and this has been a long process, but I think, moving here was the final Band-Aid for me, of really seeing what can come from just sitting with what is. In this environment, this universe, whatever, this planet, whatever, however we're here, the mysteries of the planet, of the earth, we can't control those. So when we're able to let go, something else happens. We stop making the choices and things start getting put into our laps. And it's something that's so hard to believe. And I never understood this until I think you tap into this certain energy level, this frequency of not thinking about yourself to an extent where you just want to help others. It's not about you anymore. It's about the greater good. I think that's kind of part of what it is. It's not just about you. It's just not you about getting your next thing. It's larger than that. You recognize that there is something larger than just you, and you're just part of the puzzle of the larger thing at hand, which is the general population, so that people don't have to suffer, that people don't have to do X, Y, and Z. I'm kind of trying to figure out what I'm saying right now, because all of this is happening in real time. But I think the main gist of what I'm communicating is that you just don't know what you're capable of. You don't know what the earth or the planet or our world or our society, you don't know what it needs from you, right? People make drastic changes in their life. And I think one of the biggest recognizers that you're headed in that direction is being able to sit in uncertainty. I don't think we're told by anyone that sitting in uncertainty is not going to last forever. When all these insecurities and doubts come up, this is something I wrote about in our recent newsletter that I sent out, was our search for certainty, and how, I was having thoughts of, what am I doing leaving a career job? Am I just wasting my 20s? Shouldn't I be having fun? Shouldn't I have a stable income? So while Sophie and I are young, we can do fun things. Am I just making myself miserable? Am I just creating more suffering by not trying to distract myself from what's really happening, what I'm really feeling? And those are all those thoughts that are happening. I share those because it's important to recognize that those thoughts are not unique to anyone, and they're definitely not a determinant of where you're headed. Those are just thoughts that naturally come up. They're not necessarily going to manifest into reality. They're just how you're feeling. They're just emotions. And I think it's so easy to get caught up thinking our emotions that form into thoughts are going to become into reality. So I just share this because I see the impact being able to sit in uncertainty has had on me. And for anyone who is sitting there listening to this, having uncertain thoughts of doubts, insecurities, fears, regrets, I would challenge you to question those and question their validity and give yourself some compassion and accept them, and to just keep going about your day and don't beat yourself up. Because I think self-compassion is a very important part of this as well. I think it's super easy to get caught up in bettering yourself or trying to follow these rules of what's going to improve yourself. But if you don't have that piece of self-compassion, of melting, of becoming soft, of love, I think it's missing the whole point, and it can't operate without that.
Yeah, and I think it's really easy to just forget that. And I think with everything you just said, and I do want to hear, I'm curious to hear though, how do you feel about everything that happened yesterday?
Right.
I was waiting for this for 4 minutes you were talking to ask you.
Well, I've been processing a lot. Yeah, I think that, everything I was just saying was kind of the lead up. I feel like the point I'm trying to make is all of the suffering, quote unquote, all of the pain, all of the things that I feel like I've been working through, that I haven't really seen the purpose of them, of why I'm doing all this, of why we've spent so much time isolated, why we spent so much time working through things independently. I'm starting to understand the importance of that time that I did that. And I'm starting to see the work I've done come into play, and how it's allowing me to operate at a place where I don't have imposter syndrome, or if I have those thoughts, I'm just going with it. I'm at a place where I feel like with what happened yesterday, I'm just like rolling with it. I'm ready to go. I think that's the thing. I think we're ready for this. I think we're ready to make moves. I think we're ready for the next thing. I think we're ready to build and grow and take this larger than what it is right now. And I think what's really interesting is we've been pondering, what are we doing? How do we make this bigger? How do we move on? How do we monetize this? What are we doing? And I think what I was going with earlier, when you surrender, you let go, you stop trying to control everything, including your emotions, decisions start to get made for you in the most positive way. And that's what happened. We met these people, and they gave us all of these new, fresh ideas that we probably wouldn't have thought of. And I think that is so interesting. And I don't think there's much to explain. And my explanation for that is by letting go. We let go, and we let that happened.
And it's like these people who are now literally saying, we're going to put you in front of that panel. And we're going to help you with that. Like, let's put you there. And like, oh, you'd be great there. Let's connect you with that person. All of a sudden, like, our network in Austin is compounding. We're meeting all these people. And it's like, imagine if we didn't move here. Like, I really can't imagine if we didn't move here, because it's clearly manifesting into so many things that I never in my wildest dreams, I never thought I would be in this place. And I think I do really want to touch upon what you said, imposter syndrome, because I think sitting at that table yesterday and having this conversation and having these things start to happen in such an honestly divine way, I felt this feeling coming over me though of being like, you sure? Like, you sure that that's what I can do? You sure I can get up there and speak on a panel? Like, you sure? Oh, me, Sophie? Like, really? Like, this kind of like, feeling that I think I've carried like my whole life, of thinking that I wasn't somebody who could do things like this. Like, I have thought my whole life that I wasn't somebody who was capable of doing things like this, honestly. Like, and it's so interesting as those things are still starting to happen to you, as those things are magically coming into your life, it's like that feeling state is still kind of there. And it's like that feeling state, it's at odds with reality, and which even makes it even clearer. All that feeling state ever was a feeling state, because you see it, and then you see what's actually happening, and you see people being like, oh, wow, you guys would be really great for this and this for that. And it's like, oh, right, like, I'm so much more capable than I ever thought, and as everybody is. And I just think that, like, you're never going to feel ready enough. You're never going to feel like you're ready to do that thing, that you're ready, that you are that person who can do that thing. I don't think that maybe it takes a lot of time to ever really embody that. And it's like you go ask like a musician like John Mayer, right? It's like, oh, what does he feel like every day? Does he feel like John Mayer every day when he wakes up? Like, does he feel like this guy who's been this musician who's influenced so many people? Or does he just feel like a average human? Like, can we ever obtain that feeling state that we are that thing? Like, and I think this is important to talk about, because when you think about celebrities and you think about like this world we grow up in where there's people are idolized as, oh, a celebrity is this, and somebody who works in this place is this. Like, they are this perceived idea that this person is higher than you and they're in a place that you can't get to. And it's like, what we're realizing now is that is just completely made up. Like, we are all completely equal in the sense that we can all achieve the same thing. Yes, of course, there are societal barriers and there's systemic issues. Yes, of course, there's that. But in the sense of energy that we can tap into, you start looking at these people and you're just like, did they just tap in? All they did was really just tap into that energy, right? And it's interesting when you think about people who have power that maybe we think shouldn't have power. And it's kind of like, well, so then are they tapping into that sense of abundance? Like, why did they get that? But I think the point I'm trying to make is that, like, anybody can do anything. And I used to hear that my whole life and I never understood it. But I'm realizing now that, like, anybody literally can do anything. And if you're sitting there and you're like, no, that's not true, that is your own fear. That is your own lack. That is you judging yourself and saying, I don't want to believe that, because if I do believe that, then I'm going to have to face all these things I ever thought about myself.
So there may have been a poster about imposter syndrome in your high school, but what it probably didn't include was you have to have a willingness to let go of the idea of yourself. And when we first started listening to Duelist Community, one of our friends' podcasts, I didn't really understand what that meant. They kept saying it, and I was like, what do you mean? I don't understand. And it's taken me like two and a half years to like really like build my own meaning and attach it to what that really means. And I think there has to be a willingness to grow and change I think that's maybe like the training wheels of it, like just willingness to realize I want something different, whether that's just how I interact with this world. I want it to be better. I want it to be different. I feel like it's not as good as it could be. I think that's the beginning of it. I think the reality is, from that point of realizing you want to change, you just don't know how long it's going to take before you start to realize and have insights and come out on the other side of it. It can take years for there to actually be a difference to be made. You can be stalling out left and right, not understanding why this work you're putting into yourself isn't manifesting into anything that you want. But that's because it always takes time. But as long as the willingness stays there, as long as the willingness doesn't go away, you're eventually going to get somewhere. And for me, what that looked like was years of therapy, years of trying to journal, years of trying to force things to work. But then kind of realizing, I'm not what I think I am, and being super resistant to those thoughts, being super resistant to pushing back on when I'm triggered by things, saying, just sink into it. It's okay. It is what it is. Like, you can't control it. But that being really hard to get to the point where I was comfortable enough to do that. So I think on this journey of you can do anything, people may say, oh, that's such a positive take. Like, that's not realistic. And I think what you also didn't learn in high school when people talked about you can do anything was that in order to do anything, again, it's a really, really difficult journey. The willingness that you have, it's difficult to maintain that. It's work to maintain that. And I think in our society, we've only given value to work that is for a corporation or work that is going to somehow give you money. And we forget to look at the idea of the work of ourselves, the work to keep us happy, the work to keep us feeling good, keep our connections with our loved ones good. Like, these are the core of who we are. And if that is not good, how is anything we create going to be good? Out of pure intention, out of love, out of happiness, out of like abundance. And I'm going all over the place, but I think what it comes back to is that, yeah, you can do anything, but that comes with a heavy side of you have to be willing to try, and you have to be willing to go through all of the shit, all of the emotions, all of the painful things that have happened to you, all of the experiences you've had, all the ideas of yourself that people have told you that you are or you aren't. You have to be able to sit with the potentiality of that being true and come out on the other end and say, nope, that's not true. And that's where you get to being able to let go of the idea of yourself and realizing you're not what you think you are. So that was my best stab at explaining what that means in a little bit more detail from my personal experience. But I know, Sophie, you were talking about imposter syndrome. And I know that it's super easy, no matter where you're at in your life, especially with women, to think, I can't do this. But just what if you said, well, why don't I try with an open mind? Because there is a subconscious mind as well. That's where I think it gets really hard. The willingness gets really hard with the subconscious mind, because maybe you can say, yes, I can go on stage and give a speech in front of 5,000 people. I've never done that before. But in reality, your subconscious mind might be saying, no, you can't do that. You're going to fall on your face. You're going to fail. You're going to stutter. You're going to sound stupid. It might be saying all of those things, but you have to learn to train that subconscious mind, to quiet it, to transfer it to a place of love and self-compassion, right? So that's the work. Like, that is hard. That is hard work, but it's possible, and anyone can do it if they're willing.
So just to chime in, I'm probably getting my period soon. And so my body right now is like, I feel like rage in my system. And it's so interesting because I'm like, it's making me like want to be like, oh, like just so like I'm judging every single thing, every word that just came out of both of our mouths, which is insane because there's a part of me that
is insane.
But it's also like I don't actually feel that way. So it's this weird thing of like, and I think this is where the awareness comes in of like, I'm experiencing something right now, but I know I'm not that. I know it's not true because I'm like, oh right, this makes complete sense. So that kind of, I think, is to describe kind of the fight between the subconscious mind and our reality of like these feelings come up, these emotions come up as we're trying to make changes and figure out who we really are. And it's like you feel those feelings so viscerally and they feel so uncomfortable, and it's like it makes you want to do everything, cry, scream, like everything, like get mad at somebody. And
that's reprogramming the subconscious mind.
That's reprogramming when you say, I'm going to sit in this real, it's like you're sitting there and you feel it in your stomach.
That's the hardest work, is to not project it on
not
someone,
to react,
to not to distract by going and drinking or drinking coffee or doing something that's going to take you out of your body.
But I also just want to say, like, with what happened yesterday, with out of the blue meeting these two people who I think are going to be very influential in our life, like, and if not that, they will have now opened up this new idea that we have about next steps and connecting us with people. But the past few days, when you think about the way that society defines work, right? Like work is you going and opening up your laptop, opening up Slack, opening up whatever you're doing and working, right? The work that we've been doing is not quite like that, right? So we've been podcasting, Daisy's been nannying, I'm living off savings, every day I'm like journaling, going for walks, kind of just honestly in this limbo of just being, like quite literally I'm just being, right? And there's been a lot of times that what's come up for me is kind of this discontentment with just being. It's like, well, you're really going to wake up and just meditate and you're just going to go for a walk? Like, no, you should get on the computer. You should be doing your work. You should be. And that's the 5 years or really the 8 years of trying to become a lawyer or even college or even just the education system that we all have from going to school. Like I remember so vividly being in like second grade and it's like you have to go home and do your math homework. Like we get ingrained in our mind that productivity is the only way we can get our value, and not even that productivity. It's not even about being productive, right? I think it's the way we define productivity. So it's like productivity is you working, but the work that we have been doing the past year, the past few days even, but the work that we have been doing here after leaving our jobs and being in the situation of complete unknown, it's not work in the conventional sense. It is not work in the traditional sense, but rather it's a deep connection with yourself. It's learning how to relax. And that's something that's very, very difficult. But what we don't realize, but what I think people need to understand is that the answer is not going to come from doing more work. When you're trying to make these changes and you're trying to pivot, the answer isn't going to come from that piece of paper. You're going to go write it up and find the answer. The answer is going to come when you relax. And guess what happens when you relax? You randomly go to the coffee shop next day or the hotel lobby and bam, the answer that you've been looking for is right in front of you.
So I love that. I love that so much. You said that so well because I was thinking about this the other day. I mean, you know, when you leave your job or when you're not at a job and when you're not sure what to spend your hours, when you're conditioned to work 7, 8, 9 hours a day, maybe more at a computer, when you're conditioned to work like that, doing anything but that feels super uncomfortable. So if you've ever been between jobs or unemployed or laid off or trying to figure out to start a company, whatever it is, you probably have been given this time of waking up, unsure what to do with your day, unsure how to spend it. Oh, I guess I'll pack up my laptop and go to a cafe and sit there and meaninglessly look at jobs on LinkedIn or meaninglessly like try to figure things out. Oh, I'm gonna get a coffee because that'll help me stay motivated. That'll help me. Oh, now that caffeine, it's really getting to me. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling stressed. I can't concentrate. I'm crashing. What do? I guess I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go sit home on my apartment and do something totally unproductive. Oh, before you know it, the day's over. What's happened? So that's how I feel like I've spent so many of my days, like being in between jobs or after leaving this job. You get so fixated on one thing and then the caffeine will hype you up a lot and then you have nothing to lose for it because it was always external. It was never work with yourself. But what I realized the other day, a couple of days ago, 3-4 days ago, when I really was not feeling good, it was actually after we recorded our last episode. I was feeling really good and then I got really triggered and I was like, well, what do I do about this? And I was talking to Sophie. I was like, hey, like I know my willingness is there right now. I just need direction. Like, what should I do right now? And I realized, you know what? I'm going to try to go deep. I'm going to try to journal about things that I'm feeling and really try to feel those feelings of anger, of things that are coming up. And it was uncomfortable. We went to a friend's party that night. I was super in my head. I was not feeling great. Came out, obviously, a bunch of great people. Came out feeling really great, feeling a lot better after that, but still super in my head. And the next day, I was faced. So I go to a cafe today. I was kind of like planning on it. I need to like edit the podcast, be really productive. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stay at home and I'm just going to, my body's aching. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to take it really slow and try to tap back into my body. I'm actually going to go and get a massage because I hurt my back and that's hurting my hip. That's hurting all these things. I'm being aware of what I'm feeling. Okay, so let's take care of that. And of course, the urge for me is always caffeine to help me feel better. It was there. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna try to clear my mind. I'm just gonna quiet everything. And ultimately, what always brings me back is Tara Brach. I listened to her episodes about self-compassion, and she is a life-altering savior, I'm sure, for many people, but she is truly amazing. If you ever are feeling like you just want someone to hold your hand, listen to Tara Brach, because she is truly incredible. And it made me realize I have this tendency to forget to have self-compassion and love for myself. And that took me back, and that was work. All of that I just said, you might be like, oh, but like that's relaxing, that's taking self-care. It's like, no, in my book, that is doing real work. For me, it would have been easier to go to a cafe, get all caffeinated, do some fake work, shallow work. That wasn't going to make a difference. But you know what? Doing that work did. It made all the difference. That's the deep work that allows us to not have to work 150-hour weeks. I don't know what the crazy hour weeks is, but you know how people work like crazy hours. I think I am a believer of like, when you truly invest into yourself, you don't have to work so hard because you're not fighting yourself. Maybe you take two people, one who's working 100 hours on something, and the same situation with the other person. They're also working 100 hours. One person is working on something they care about. They've done a lot of work. This is an extension of themselves, versus someone who's super stressed. They don't give any attention to themselves. This is something that they don't even know why they're doing, but they're stressed, so they have to do it. And to one, it probably is going to feel like flow, tapping in. That's because they've done work and they've connected to something higher than themselves or something like that. So all of this is to say that I have a very strong opinion on work, and productivity is not measured by how many emails you sent, how many things you wrote. It sometimes is about truly reflecting with yourself, taking time, getting quiet, and saying, what do I need right now? And the answer is probably not easy. It's probably not easy to give yourself self-compassion. It's probably not easy to feel those extreme feelings, but that's real work that I want to say is super valuable, and that's going to pay off more than anything else.
Couldn't agree more. And I think it's a really uncomfortable process, like leaving your job and like coming from the corporate world where the focus is productivity in the sense of working really hard. And I think I'm so grateful that like I'm in this place now of like, yeah, like there has been a lot of times where that my body, the fear's coming up, you're living on your savings. What are you going to do? You're sitting here right now and paying rent, but you don't have money coming in. And I'm like, stop. Money's coming in. Like I am putting so much work that I have absolutely no doubt that I'm going to be fine. Not only will I be fine, I would be exponentially fine. Like I'm not worried. And that's taken me a while to let go of. And what really I did, right, was I recognized the fear that I had about not being able to make money. I recognized the fear that I had that when I'm sitting here right now, living off of savings, and I'm taking this, what people call or perceive to be a giant risk, right? I recognize all the fear that's there. And then I say to myself, like, that's not really what I feel, because I connected with that deep part of myself that says, I believe in myself. I believe in this. I believe in whatever this is going to be. I knew that life that I was working in Manhattan as a lawyer is not where I want to be. And that fear that I'm feeling right now is just a reflection of all the fear that I felt my whole life. And it's really rising to the surface now. It's really coming up for me to see, because I'm not pushing against it. I'm letting it come up. And what happens when we let our emotions come up and we don't resist them is we start to really develop that separation and awareness to recognize, oh, wait, this is just going to pass. The fear is going to come up. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to say, okay, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And then from there, the clarity comes. And then you realize, oh, I can sit here living on my savings, not having any money coming in right now, or not much, and feel completely fine. I can feel completely fine. I can feel as relaxed as I would be if I was making $1 million. What's the difference there? Ability to relax, the ability to let go. Because the truth is, if you gain that mindset, if you program your mind to have the ability to relax and have the ability to let go, that's all you need in life. Because no matter how much money you're making, no matter where you're living, that same fear will follow you. So like Joe Dispenza says, and like everyone says, it's about tapping into that state, that energy that is constantly there. And if you're coming from a place of fear If you're always anxious and you're always sitting there worrying and worrying and worrying and not trusting, your life will continuously show you that. But if you let go and relax, well, get excited because life will surprise you with some really crazy shit.
Yep. And if you flinch at the idea of that, that means that you have some work to do, some internal reflection and pushing back on to do, because the truth is you can do anything. And it's hard to hear that because it means that you have to face things that you don't want to face. And the longer you can go without facing these things, the more you can live in a state of distraction. I think a lot of people who work incredibly hard at their jobs work really hard. It's a distraction. If they hate it, even if they hate it, it can be a distraction. It becomes certainty. Back to how we started this episode, certainty. The ultimate fear is that there is uncertainty, because there is no certainty of how any of this exists. There is no, I looked up the definition. Certainty is described as a reliably true answer. And in the newsletter, I posed the question of, well, can anyone give a reliably true answer as to how we all are here right now? Can they?
No, absolutely
not. What do you think? I want to hear your response.
No, I think there is no truth. You debate science, you debate all these different things of who do Adam and Eve to religion. It's just like nobody knows how we got here. And the people who will say they do know, they're just clinging to something to make them feel comfortable, right? And that's okay. Placebo effect, sure. But the point is, nature, this universe, works in the most magical ways. It doesn't work through logic. So if we sit here and we try to figure out life through logic, we're not going to get the life we want. And I just want to go back to what you're saying about like, people don't like, it's really uncomfortable. Like, it's been really uncomfortable for me to realize I can actually have the life I want, because it's made me realize I never thought I could. Like, that's the thing, is like, it makes you have to let go of this addiction to negativity that we've had about ourselves our whole life. It's addicting to sit there and spend your whole life thinking you can't and you can't and you can't. And fear. Things won't work out for you. Why would they work out for you? And it's like, we're addicted to that mindset. We're addicted to thinking we can't. Because what's the alternative? Working through all this shit, all the reasons why you thought you can't, and then getting to the point where you can, and then going, oh, wait. If I can have everything in life, if I can actually achieve every single thing I want in my life, then what? Oh, right, you're brought back to the same exact moment that's always been, the present moment. So it's this weird, crazy thing that I actually think we prefer to think we can't do things, because that gives us a level of comfort.
So different take here, not opposing what you're saying, more so switching topics a little bit. Kind of, you got me thinking about it of like, well, if I achieve all of this, then what's next? You posed a question yesterday I thought was really interesting of like, say you're a venture capitalist and say you're truly in building a corporation, truly for the money, and you keep on wanting to get that dopamine hit of achieving more. And, you know, we were talking about this earlier about this exponential need of scaling a business. At what point do you need to stop scaling? Why do businesses scale? So why is the main goal of companies to just scale? Like tech startups are like the perfect example. Like, let's throw a bunch of money out and let's just scale. Let's scale really fast. And it's like, well, what's the intention behind that? Is it just to make money? And that is empty if it's just to make money. So is the way to fulfill some sort of purpose to just keep making money by scaling? And I was thinking about that, and I think ultimately I don't know what direction we're going to go in. I truly don't know, because what I'm following is this feeling, is this connectedness, is this like wanting to help and help other people realize that they don't have to perpetuate their suffering. Anything that happens is just secondary in my eyes. Like, they always used to tell you, like, do what you love and the money will follow. And we learn to write these things off because people in society would tell us like, oh, well, you can only do that if yada, yada, yada.
Or,
X,
oh,
Y,
that's
Z.
so cheesy. Oh, look at that quote. Like, follow your heart. It's like,
people are just jaded. And the reality is,
oh my
like,
God, wow.
It's just not that black or white. And that's kind of like the illusion. And I think for us, taking a step back, moving, kind of losing all senses of our reality of it externally, I think it really helps paint the picture of there is an illusion that people buy into and it makes them suffer. And I really think people are waking up to it. And that's probably everyone who's listening to this podcast. Like, you are waking up to, there is more out of this society. There's more, and we can operate at a higher frequency out of love, and we can help. And there's endless amounts of help to go around. And that's the direction I want to go in. I don't know what's going to come of that, but something will. But the purpose will never change. The purpose will always be there no matter what it is that I'm doing. So it doesn't really matter where I end up. The pressure is taken off. It's about challenge. You're always challenging yourself. You're never settling on anything because you just got to keep moving through. And that is where I think the excitement of life lies. You don't know what's going to happen. And right now, it's super easy for me to say this because I'm in a place right now where everything's flowing. Go back 2 episodes ago through my spiral. You'll see how hard it is to maintain this mentality.
We'll check back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, to maintain this mentality to an extent when all the fear is coming up. Because the fear is always going to come up. It's never going to end. But we just get stronger and stronger at creating space between making that. We just create space between accepting that as our reality and just seeing it as a phase.
100%. Wow. I'm having crazy insights. I think this is probably a good place to leave the episode. Gotta make lunch before the rest of the day moves on. But I think there's so much to talk about. And that's why we do this podcast, is literally because it is hard to maintain this state consistently. It is hard to be consistently feeling good, feeling motivated, wanting to move forward. And that's why we have this podcast, so we can walk you through our thoughts of doing this, of realizing there is so much more to life than what we were told.
And I'll leave it at life is just one giant experiment. There's no person at the end who's going to judge you and say to you, you did the wrong thing. Now you're going to suffer in eternity forever. That's just not true.
And there's certainly no one who's going to come to you and say you made it, because that moment never comes.
No. And I think it's just a matter of have fun, challenge yourself, put yourself in uncomfortable situations and do the work internally as well. And you're going to end up somewhere that's exciting. Because you're living in the moment, and that's exciting. What you're doing in this very moment's exciting because you're pushing yourself and challenging yourself and trying new things. Like, you don't have to follow any path that you think you have to follow.
You're quite literally guaranteed to get to where you want to be, because guess what? You're already right there. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, guys. This is a crazy ride. This is a crazy journey. This is going to be a crazy next few months. Like, I don't know. We'll keep you updated, and I'm excited to tell you more about what happens with the stuff we're talking about as it unfolds. And yeah.
We love that you guys listen to us. We're excited to hear from you for Thursday's episode. So don't hesitate to reach out to us with even the smallest note. And I was going to do this earlier in the episode, but I didn't. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow Spotify, because I know you guys all stopped listening 2 minutes before the end. But go ahead.
No, there's some people listen the full way through.
That is true. So go ahead and follow us on Spotify. That helps us tremendously. If you even want to push the little bell so you get notified.
Write us a review on Apple. That also helps. And follow us on Instagram.
Well, I don't want to overwhelm people.
No, they can hear it. They can handle it.
Okay. So thanks for being here, and don't forget to tune in on Thursday of this week with our new episode. All right. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.